Just when one thinks that the Labour government couldn't sink any lower on Palestine, they have made the appalling and extremely irresponsible decision to suspend funding for UNRWA. 4 months of Israel's genocide, with more than 27,000 Palestinians killed, including over 11,000 children, and you haven't uttered a word of condemnation. Yet, it took you no time at all to suspend life-saving funding to UNRWA, further enabling collective punishment of Palestinians as Israel continues its rampage and massacre in Gaza. UNRWA chief Mr. Philippe Lazarani has said that Israel has yet to present any evidence of its allegations to UNRWA. Minister, what evidence did you see before you made the catastrophic decision to suspend UNRWA's funding?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Wong.
There is so much, thank you, President. There's so much in that question which is false, and it reminds us again that just like Peter Dutton, the Greens,
Minister Wong, please refer to.
So I'm sorry, I apologise. The opposition leader, Mr. Dutton, and the Greens are on a unity ticket, which is all about dividing the Australian community and weaponising this horrific conflict. You're the same, and you are. And there are two facts in relation to UNRWA.
Please resume your seat.
Well, I will. I would say two things I'm going to say about UNRWA. First, there are two facts we cannot ignore in relation to UNRWA. The first is they do life-saving work, and I would remind you, Senator Faruqi, that we doubled the core funding to UNRWA. I would remind you of that. Something you never say, something you do not acknowledge. No, you're shaking your head now. See, here we go again. The second point is the recent allegations against its staff are grave and need to be investigated. Those facts are both true, and that is why we have suspended, along with many of our like-minded partners, pending these matters being carefully considered. But I have to say this about it is of deep regret that while the government is seeking to use our voice to advocate for the release of hostages, for the protection of civilian lives, for humanitarian access and for a pathway out of this conflict, we do not have partners in this effort in either the opposition or the Greens. I remind the Greens that we still have 130 hostages being held by Hamas. I remind them of that. I remind those opposite that there are 1.7 million people in Gaza who are internally displaced. The reality is that we are seeking to play a constructive role. There are two parties in this place who are playing politics with this conflict.
Thank you, Senator
One of them
Wong.
has just
The
asked me
time
a
for
question.
answering has expired.
Minister, I did not need a lesson in gaslighting. Millions of Palestinians have been forcibly displaced. Families are forced to move repeatedly in search of safety under Israel's bombardment. Over 66,000 Palestinians have been injured. Children are being starved and traumatized. Pregnant women are giving birth in tents. Given all this evidence of acute humanitarian needs and the urgency of aid, Minister Wong, when will you restore the funding?
Your time has expired.
I would invite Senator Faruqi to perhaps consider what I said in a press conference on Thursday with the New Zealand Foreign Minister and Defence Ministers, where I went through precisely some of the facts to which he has averted, in an explanation amidst those who are attacking the government for our funding and support over many years, including under the previous government of UNRWA. I reminded people why the Australian government now and previously has funded that organisation, and that is because it is the only association, the only entity which has been capable of delivering assistance into the occupied Palestinian territories. That is also why we increased the core funding. And I'd invite you in your social media and public media to perhaps recognise that. I also made the point that 1.7 million people are internally displaced. I made the point there are increasingly few safe places for Palestinians to go. I reminded people that there are 1 million at risk of starvation and 400,000 Palestinians in Gaza
has still